All right. Let's call to order the Santa Barbara County Board of Education meeting on March 13th, held here at the SBCEO North County office. I'd like to note that live simultaneous Spanish translation of the board meeting is available for those viewing online. At this time, let us pledge allegiance to our flag. Oh. Okay. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're ready for roll call, Anna?
Okay, Mrs. Alvarez Flores,
Here.
Dr. Armistead,
Here.
Mrs. Cardy,
Here.
Ms. Ehrman,
Here.
Mrs. Frost, Mrs. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Walker. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no changes to the agenda. So we'll begin with board comments. If anyone has anything they'd like to say or report. Dr. Armstead, Ms. Reed, no. Any board comments? Mrs. Frost.
Hello. It's been a month, I forgot. On the table, you'll see an invitation to the Santa Barbara County School Board Association Annual Dinner, which is Wednesday evening, 5:30, April 16th at the Brothers. And the invited speaker will be Dr. Victor Rios. He's a UCSB professor, author, and speaker, and known to some of us for work. And we'll also honor Laura Branch, the County Teacher of the Year. There is a deadline for registration, and my history with this is it's a full room every time. So if you want to go, call and make your reservation, and it's well worth it. It's a lot of the school districts have board members there who attend, so you get a chance to kind of meet some of our peers in the various school district boards.
And Dr. Rios is a great speaker. Thank you, Mrs. Frost. I'll just report that I attended a performance today by the Las Guacheros. It's a group of female musicians from Colombia through the Viva el Arte program, which I had mentioned last meeting. And I say this because these women were absolutely fabulous. They were very young and they really engaged with students. And Viva el Arte is a county-wide cultural education program. And on Sunday at 6 p.m. at Marjorie Luke, they'll be performing for families. And I would encourage anybody who's interested to attend. It's at 6 p.m. at Marjorie Luke. And watching kids get up and dance, sing in Spanish, and just respond to the music. It was just a bright spot in my day. I wanted to share that. Okay. Do we have any public comments?
There's no public comment.
Okay, and we'll get right into it. First up is a presentation on the Juvenile Justice Center, and our Associate Superintendent Bridget Boblitz will be introducing Chief Holly Benton.
Thank you, Mrs. Cardy. And I'm pleased to introduce the Santa Barbara County Probation Chief, Holly Benton, who is here today, as you indicated, to present an update on the Juvenile Justice Center. Holly has served as probation chief since March of 2023 and brings over 30 years of experience to this role. She is widely recognized as a collaborative leader, deeply committed to serving and supporting youth. And I will say that Holly has been a valued partner to us, and her passion for youth and dedication to their sex make her an invaluable asset to our work. And so please join me in welcoming Chief Holly Benton.
Thank you. Am I actually on? Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. I am Chief Holly Benton, and I have been chief now for 2 years of the probation department. I've been with this county now for 7 years, and I have actually now, this is my 35th anniversary month of time in this particular field. So I have worked with a number of school personnel in 2 counties over the years and have nothing but praise for our county education office personnel and our school personnel at the JJC. When Dr. Salcido asked me to come introduce myself to the board, I thought this was a wonderful opportunity to talk about that partnership a little bit, but also to give your board a brief overview of juvenile justice in the county and to tell you a little bit about how we work with youth so that you perhaps understand some of the unique challenges that our school personnel are facing when they're working with those youth inside that juvenile justice center. So in Santa Barbara County, each year we develop a comprehensive plan, which outlines how we're going to work with youth in the county. And it is not just those youth that are justice involved, it's also youth in our communities in the prevention and intervention space. The Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council, which is a statutory group, but is made up of community stakeholders, community-based organizations, county agencies, county schools is a part of that group. That group sits down each year over a series of meetings and discusses the state of services for youth in our county. What gaps are there? What things are missing? What things are important for us to focus on in terms of our work with youth in the county over the course of the next year? How do we want to fill those gaps? And each year that group also focuses on and sets the goals for working with youth in the county. And these are the 4 goals that we tend to focus on most years. Reducing recidivism is really about interrupting chains of behavior for youth. What are the unmet needs that those youth have that are actually causing the behaviors that bring us before the juvenile court with that youth? Our position on this is that the earliest point possible, we want to provide interventions, prevention services in the community, and we need the support of our community-based organizations and our schools in particular in order to be able to do that effectively. Enhancing diversion opportunities as much as possible. You want to divert youth out of the system and away from court involvement. You don't want them drawn deeper into the system. And so any methods that we can use to do that are crucial. Collaboration between youth serving agencies and departments for better outcomes. We don't want to work in silos. We don't want to have our agencies not speaking to each other, not collaborating on youth case plans, not understanding the whole picture of what's going on with youth in our community. And it's important to do that not just when they come into contact with juvenile justice, but long before. If there are risk factors, signs that there is going to be some issues maybe with that youth or family, we want to intervene as soon as possible. And then addressing disparities. Each youth is unique and each youth has to be their own whole person. So when we identify disparities in our system, we want to address those. That includes things like cultural barriers, language barriers. I'm thinking specifically of our Mixteco community and our Indigenous folks that live in the North County in particular. Our youth that are LGBTQIA+, all of those youth have particular needs and services that they require. And many others. We have disproportionate youth of color in our system, and we like to focus in and try to address those barriers where we can as well. So when youth come to probation, usually it's because they've committed either an infraction or a law violation. And when they come before us, they come with complex needs. Many of them have been involved in child welfare before. Many of them have, complex trauma. They have high adverse childhood experiences or ACEs. And those things are not easily addressed. It's usually not a quick fix. It often involves the family because the root of the issue, whatever they're facing, is not just theirs, they're by themselves. It's a family problem. So we try to look at each individual youth and address those factors on an individual basis, assessing risk, assessing what their needs are, which I'll talk about in just a moment, and trying to keep that youth in the home and provide services in their community where they are as much as possible. Statewide, as the statistic shows, about 90% of youth who come into contact with probation are served in the home, and that's where they remain. Services are evidence-based, meaning that they're proven. We know that they work because there's a lot of research behind how we work with youth. They are trauma informed. Our officers are trained in dealing with youth with trauma because all of our youth have trauma. I don't think we have any youth that come into our system that don't have some type of trauma. And they're cognitive behavior change based. So what you want to do is change the behaviors and change the thinking so that these youth will take a different path, choose a different course next time. Local statistics, as you can see here, there's a state graph and there is a county graph, which is the red line. And statewide, we've seen a dramatic decline in juvenile arrests since 2011, and our trend has been similar. The numbers dropped even more dramatically during the pandemic, but they've now returned to pre-pandemic levels. Also statewide, felonies make up about 51% of juvenile arrests, but locally about 37% of juvenile arrests are felonies. And use of diversion for those with misdemeanors in our county is up to about 29% of all youth that we come into contact with. So 3 out of 10 are diverted right away out of the system. We don't even bring them into contact with the juvenile court. That's up from under 10% in 2018. So we have made significant progress in diversion over the last several years. You may think of youth in contact with probation as being children under 18, but that is no longer the case. About 40% of the youth that are on probation are 18 or over at this point. And there has been a great deal of recognition in my field about adolescent brain development and the fact that these folks may be 18, but that doesn't automatically make them functioning adults. They are still learning and growing and making poor choices and impulsive choices at times. And they have to be able to fail occasionally and make a mistake and learn from that mistake. So that recognition has permeated the field. The majority of youth that are being supervised in this county at this point are male and Hispanic. Here's the local trend in youth supervision, which does show a significant, as you can see, downward trend post 2017 in our county as a result of changes in the law and also changes to our local practice since 2018. The numbers now are currently roughly where they were at the start of the COVID pandemic. And I mentioned that in the field of probation and community corrections, we're much more aware of adolescent brain development. This has helped to drive some of these other changes and trends. Youth incarceration has dropped dramatically along with the rate of arrest. And we have shifted from a compliance or rule-based type of supervision to a type of supervision that's about unmet needs and changing behaviors because teenagers don't follow rules well. I mean, this is something that we all know from our own families, from our kids. They have to be allowed to make mistakes. And if you give a youth who has come into contact with the juvenile justice system a list of rules and expect them to follow them perfectly, you're going to be very disappointed. They are not going to follow those rules perfectly. And if your orientation toward assisting that youth is, well, you didn't follow the rules, you've missed the point. Right. The point is that you have to help them succeed, not that you're waiting for them to fail. So that is a significant shift that has taken place in my field, something that should have been, I think, intuitive all along, but perhaps was not, because for a long time, the juvenile justice system treated youth like adults. Over time, probation has shifted away from dealing with minor school behavior, truancy, chronic runaway behavior. Those are not things that come to the juvenile justice system any longer. Research has also shown us that if a youth is detained at a juvenile facility, that the chances of being drawn deeper into the system increase dramatically with each one of those detentions. So you want to be careful to make sure that those youth that are detained are those with the most serious or the most violent offenses. One other thing that I'll touch on, because I'm going to show a slide about it in a moment. There was a shift a few years ago at the state level where the state closed its juvenile justice facilities. SB 823 was the legislation that enacted that. Youth are no longer being sent to those DJJ facilities. Instead, they're being kept at the local level in our juvenile justice center. And the result of that change has been that we have many youth now between the ages of 18 and 25 who are serving multi-year commitments in our juvenile justice center. This is something that was never contemplated when that center was built. So that also represents some unique challenges for us and for our school personnel. Sure.
Whether I ask a question now or wait until you finish.
That's up to you.
It's specifically about this. What determines that person that's been arrested between 18 and 25 would go to the JCC versus somewhere else?
There is nowhere else. That's what determines it. Those youth are all kept on the local level now.
All
So,
of them, regardless of what they've been arrested for.
correct. Yes. The change is a complete shift, complete closure of the state facilities and a complete shift to the counties. So if a youth is arrested for murder and that youth is not adjudicated in adult court, they are not transferred into adult court, then the limitation on their sentence will be age 25 and they will remain in a juvenile facility if sentenced to do so by the court until age 25.
And regardless if they have a high school diploma or not. So it's not about,
It's not related to education, but I will touch on that in a moment.
Okay.
In terms of, we prioritize education while they're in custody, and I'll talk about why that is in a moment. Sure, sure.
So it depends on what the person is. In other words, if they were adjudicated as a juvenile, that's.
It is not going to necessarily dictate whether or not they're going to remain in the system. It will dictate where they will ultimately serve their time or their commitment.
Yeah.
The change to the law also made it more complicated to transfer some of these cases into adult court. The presumption now being that they shouldn't be housed in a jail under the age of 25 unless the court probation, the district attorney can show that the jail can provide some of the services that are required during that period of brain development between 18 and 25. It's a somewhat, it has been a somewhat controversial change, but the intent of it, the original intent of it, was to make sure that these youth were housed locally so they had closer access to their community and to their family, which, it's been a mixed blessing, I think. There's an upside and a downside to that. Yeah.
I guess when I'm struggling with this definition of youth.
Yeah.
So a 23-year-old being
Young man,
housed with a
yes.
14-year-old.
Correct. And we have what we call classification procedures, right? Not unlike you might hear about in a jail, except it's in a juvenile facility where we don't house a 14-year-old with a 23-year-old. They would be separated because not only will the 14-year-old irritate the 23-year-old unreasonably, but they're at very different stages of their life, their maturity, different stages of addressing their treatment needs. And so they will not be attending any type of treatment together and they won't be housed together.
Like,
yeah. Let's see. Now the youth that are in custody pursuant to this conversation are much more likely to have committed an offense which harmed another person and jeopardized public safety. It is overall a very small percentage of the youth that we serve that are in our juvenile facilities, and it's an even smaller percentage of the youth countywide. And while they are in custody, they receive a wide range of services, which I'll talk about in a moment. Our local statistics show that, probation works to address what we call dynamic risk factors. There's a lot of jargon in my field, but I like to think of this as the things that you can change that will change your life, basically. It's who you hang out with. It's whether or not you attend school. It's whether you have a level of family dysfunction that prevents you from being, a whole person, basically. And sometimes it's your beliefs about the law enforcement, about, breaking the law, whether or not there should be consequences, whether you feel that there are consequences. All of those things are what we call criminogenic needs. And we focus in on those, we assess those, and we try to target those. We also try to enhance protective factors. We know that if you're in school, your chances of success go up dramatically. Particularly if you're in regular class, you're in all the time, you're attending regularly, we know you're going to do much better. Pro-social bonds, do you have supports from people in your life who are not encouraging you toward to do bad things? Do you have a stable residence? Are your basic needs being met on a daily basis? Those things are incredibly important to success. This is just a sampling of the many programs and services that are out there being brought in for our youth in custody. And I won't go through all of that. I will just say we have a wide range of things, and many of these are educational or vocational in nature. And we have been, because of the fact that we have youth in custody now for many years, in some cases, been working to build the vocational. In some ways, we've had to build the plane as we've been flying it. We haven't really had any choice. So we continue to bring in additional programs for those youth. I think this gives a picture of that population that I was talking about. We're actually up to 23 youth now who are in what's called the secure youth track. And those are youth that are, they were not transferred into adult court. They instead were sentenced in juvenile court and now will be serving time in the facility until they're 25. As you can see, some of these youth have multi-year commitments, you know, and I do mean multi-year, 5 or more years that they will be with us. Some of them starting at age 15 or 16, all the way up until their mid to late 20s. It's a big change, you know, and the challenge for us is to make sure that they are occupied, that their minds are occupied, that they have, you know, challenging work to do, that they are, they don't go stir crazy. You know, these are still youth, and we want them to learn something and gain skills so that we are able to re-enter them into the community productively, right? That is our goal. And as I said, it's been a little bit of a challenge for us as quickly as this has happened. We emphasize the importance of education at all stages of working with youth. Our county partners have been amazing, working with our individual youth to bring out the best in them. And they have helped us to create technical, vocational programs for the youth. They have also helped us to create partnerships with our local colleges. We have partnerships with almost every local college and with Rising Scholars now. We try to put the youth on a what we call college preparatory before they start college, because it's a shock to the system for some of these youth. They may have obtained their GED and they think they're ready to go, and they're really not. College is a shock to even, you know, incredibly well-adjusted kids who are straight A. They go to college and suddenly it's not what they expected, right? We actually have one youth right now in custody who's in a 4-year university. So we have had some success with this. We have youth with AA degrees. We have one youth, I think, with multiple AA degrees now. And we do try to help them see a vision of their future that includes education, right? If you can help them see that point in the future for themselves, where they're not here now, mired down in what they're mired down in now, but they are a person who has graduated from college and has a brighter future ahead of them, that sometimes can make all the difference to what will happen with that youth when they leave that facility. So we continue to prioritize education. We're very grateful for our partners at county schools who have helped us to put these programs in place. And that really is the brief overview. Are there other questions for me that I can answer?
Would you say once again what the acronym SYTF?
It stands for Secure Youth Treatment Facility. Locally, we call that program our PEAK program, Perseverance, Equity, Accountability, and Knowledge. And, you know, I think it doesn't so much matter what you call it, it matters what you do with it, right? And we're going to have a challenge over the next few years trying to put more programming in place in that facility. But I think I can sort of see where it's going to end up, and I think it's going to be amazing once we get some of the programs in. The challenge is it is a relatively small population. And when you want to bring in a contractor to do something, you have to have money to be able to contract for all of these different services. And the funding stream is not that robust. Most of the funding goes to staff the facility and to provide supports. Like, for instance, there is no dedicated funding stream for, let's say a youth wants to leave custody and we want them to go into transitional housing, right? We're probably going to help pay for that housing, but there's a finite stream of money for that, right? So sometimes it's about funding, and sometimes it's just about finding a wide enough variety of contractors who are willing to do those services.
Where are they located?
They are all at the Juvenile Justice Center in Santa Maria.
So thank you so much for that presentation.
You're welcome.
It's really great to have an idea of of the focus. And I really love hearing that you approach helping the youth succeed instead of waiting for them to fail. And one of my questions centered on the facility as well, because prior, and I know we've talked about this in prior meetings with the closure of the Los Pratos Boys School. I know that that was a location that a lot of the community really, and the youth and everyone that was there really appreciated. And I know, and for all of us, can we just have a brief description of why we don't have that anymore? And then also, are there elements that are happening now to try to integrate some sort of that nature aspect into the current facilities?
Making sure I'm green. Yes, so that facility was costing us about $3 million a year. And on average, we had 4 youth there in the facility at any given time. The youth that used to go to the camp were youth that had misdemeanors, and those youth are now being diverted. They're not in custody at all. So the youth that we have in custody at the JJC are there for extremely significant and serious offenses, and they are not appropriate for an open setting, so they would not have been appropriate for the camp. I would not be comfortable housing those youth there, just based on the community safety aspects of the crimes that they have committed. So it outlived its usefulness, basically, and became no longer cost effective for the number of youth that were being committed. The average population there was between 4 and 5 for over 3 years before we finally said, we really cannot continue this program. We are in the process. That site up at Los Prietos has been taken over by County Fire, who is now housing their equipment up there. And we're in the process of developing a mentorship program with County Fire that will allow some of those youth to go up there and participate on hand crews. They won't actually be doing firefighting, but they'll be able to be mentored by the firefighters, and they will be able to learn how to use tools and other equipment. And that will give them some access to that space.
Thank you so much, Holly. I think we all applaud you for taking a trauma-informed approach with students at the JJC and not just seeing them as adjudicated. Addressing those disparities, I think that's all just at the very heart of it. And I'm wondering how long this approach has been in effect, and is there enough baseline data to know if it's making a difference?
We do have some baseline data. We report some of that data out each year as part of that process I described with the Juvenile Justice Coordinating Council. And it is actually available online if you go to our website and look for a terrible long name, Comprehensive Multi-Agency Juvenile Justice Plan, also known as the CMJJP. You can find the links to the previous year's plans on there, where we talk a little bit about some of the data that goes along with these initiatives. I think, it is a relatively small sample. So, we know that our recidivism rates tend to be, they're not bad. They're pretty good, but it's harder for us now to do recidivism rates for youth because their files are sealed almost as soon as they exit the system. Many files are sealed automatically, and so we no longer have access to all of the data that goes along with that sealed file. So there are some things that we can still access to run reports, but other things we're not able to assess. We only know if they come back into the system, if they come back into the local system. So if they're elsewhere in California, we're not able to, really look at that statistic. So there are some limitations to what we're able to ascertain through the data, but you can see what we do have in those reports.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate the chance to speak with you today.
Just want to say thank you again, Holly. And I just would like to say we're so appreciative of your partnership and the difference that you make with the youth. We just really, really love working with you. So thank you so kindly for being here. I know you have an appointment you need to get to, so feel free to go.
Thank you
for
so
being
much.
here.
Next, we have a presentation on county-wide behavioral health supports for students, and we have representatives of multiple divisions, all of whom work together. And again, we'll have Associate Superintendent Bridget Boblitz introduce Shannon York, Tiffany Carson, and Mary Ellen Reese.
So thank you. And yes, it is my pleasure to introduce three of our directors here at SBCEO representing two different divisions. So from the Curriculum and Instruction Division, we have Tiffany Carson, who is Director of School and District Support, as well as two individuals from the Student Community Services Division, Mary Ellen Reese, who's our Executive Director of one of the nonprofits, Children and Family Resource Services, and Shannon York, who is a Director of Student and Community Services. And they're each working in this behavioral health space. So they'll share a little bit about their work and how it impacts students countywide. Well, welcome.
Thank you. And good afternoon, board members. As Associate Superintendent Boblet said, this really is a team approach, social and emotional learning, behavioral wellness. It's something that we all need to collaborate on. I'm here today to share how our Curriculum and Instruction Division is supporting students' behavioral health and wellness, specifically through social and emotional learning. Also, I'm going to abbreviate that to SEL throughout the presentation. I'll begin first by sharing how the statewide efforts, and then I'll discuss how those have been enacted in our county. Social and emotional learning, SEL, is an integral part of education and human development, and it's included in California's vision, one system serving the whole child. SEL is the process that helps students and adults learn and use skills to build healthy identities, manage emotions, achieve goals, show empathy, maintain relationships, and make responsible decisions. Educators, parents, and researchers have intuitively understood the benefits of SEL for a long time, but as we all collectively experienced, COVID-19 dramatically accelerated the need to explicitly address SEL in our schools and in our communities. So in response to the behavioral health crisis arising from the pandemic, the California Department of Public Health partnered with FEMA, a federal emergency management agency, to provide free outreach, crisis counseling, and resilience building resources to local communities. And there was a significant investment of about $33 million that was put towards this effort. And in June 2020, CalHope was launched as the organization to manage and provide those much needed resources. And as the desire to help children and families in crisis continued to increase, there was a realization that the best way to deploy resources to children was through schools, and the best way to get resources to schools was through county education offices. So in early 2021, the CalHope School Initiative was established with three objectives. First, to build and sustain the CalHope SEL statewide community of practice, specifically for county education offices. To ensure a permanent and free collection of SEL resources that were available to our communities, and to distribute funds to county offices of education to support SEL at the local level. So over the past 5 years, about $50 million has been committed to supporting SEL in education specifically. And from the beginning, our office, Santa Barbara County Education Office, has played an active role in these efforts. So using those statewide SEL resources and grant funds, we've been able to host our own SEL community of practice to build connections and share resources, which we modeled after the statewide COP. Community of practice. We distributed mini grants directly to our schools and districts. We funded counselors, professional learning opportunities for educators, and experiential learning for students, specialized coaching, and more. And in partnership with our districts, we identified SEL focal schools who were able to pilot and evaluate SEL strategies in their setting, and then they received additional coaching and professional development in return. And we connected our districts to free, durable, evergreen resources through our trainings, communications, our brochures, and relationships. And now, in what is the final year of SEL funding from the CalHope Schools Initiative, we've continued to provide customized resources for our districts as they build sustainable SEL systems and supports so that all Santa Barbara County children and educators can thrive. In your packets, you will have received the SEL brochure that we use this year to connect with our districts and charters about CalHope and SEL resources. And if you open to the middle, you can learn more about the elements of social and emotional learning within our schools. So this includes support for social and emotional learning for our students as they learn about themselves and how they relate to their peers and to adults. This includes support for adult social and emotional learning as educators build relationships with students and one another and work to embed SEL into their academic practices. And finally, support for SEL in school systems, structures, and culture. And additionally, the brochure highlights featured partners who were able to work with our districts and schools for free this year, thanks to those one-time SEL funds through CalHope. So it's great to read about these opportunities, but I wanted to bring some joy with photos and a brief soundbite of our students and teachers. So starting from the top and moving clockwise, here are some of our featured partners working in the county. We have Kevin Bracey, starting at the upper left, a greatness coach who hosted an assembly with all 900 students at Bruce Elementary in Santa Maria Bonita. And then moving to the right, we have Kevin again hosting an assembly for all 107 students in Ballard. So we're supporting our students and districts everywhere in the county. And then below that, we have a photo of all of the teachers in the Santa Ynez Valley gathering together to learn about collective teacher efficacy and trauma-informed practices with Ricky Robertson. This was part of a multi-day series. And then I'm going to play this audio clip of Kevin hosting an assembly in
I'm brilliant. I believe in me. Hands up. I'm awesome. I'm brilliant.
So I don't know if you could hear them, but they're singing, I'm awesome, I'm brilliant, I believe in me, I matter. And then they speak those words to other students. What powerful words for them to say and hear about themselves. So to give you some numbers and highlight what we've been able to accomplish with SEL funds in this year alone. And we know that these numbers are approximate because we're still building out some opportunities and experiences before the CalHope Fund sunset in June. But by the end of this school year, over 15,000 students will have experienced chant rallies, mindfulness residencies, and other artistic performances teaching self-affirmation and speaking words of kindness. Over 300 educators will have participated in workshops and ongoing site-based coaching in SEL, with a special emphasis on our alternative and continuation schools in Lompoc Unified, Santa Barbara Unified, the Santa Ynez Valley, and our own SBCEO schools. We will have trained over 50 classified staff, including campus safety, on de-escalation practices and restorative approaches for when students are experiencing dysregulation. And 19 school site leadership teams will have received professional development and ongoing coaching on how to integrate SEL through a multi-tiered system of support at their site. And as noted on this slide and in the brochure, we've shared with you earlier, these are the main organizations who have contributed significantly to growing the available and durable SEL resources that we use as a county education office and that we're able to pass along to our districts, charters, and families. And it's really their contributions, along with the heavy upfront investment from the SEL grant, that have supported our knowledge systems and networks so that SEL awareness will continue beyond the life of the CalHope Schools initiative. And our support from our office will continue to grow and evolve so that children and educators in Santa Barbara County can thrive. And as we mentioned before, we do this in partners with others in our county office. So I will now turn it over to Mary Ellen, who will share about Children and Family Resource Services.
I wanted to point out in your packet, there's a glossary that talks about some of the terms because we talk about a lot of acronyms. I'm going to have a few too, but I know when I get done, Shannon's got a lot more complicated ones than I have. So I'm really glad to see everybody today. Some of you have heard me talk about MWell before and what we're doing, and so it's good to see you again. This will be some updates, so hopefully, and for many of you, you're hearing about it for the first time. So I just wanted to briefly kind of give a backdrop to our department because it's a little bit different. We're one of the 3 nonprofits at SBCEO. We are the youngest one. We started about 7 years ago with different programs and departments within County Education Office that we're doing a lot of community work, serving students, but also people out in the community. And so that nonprofit was formed, like I said, only 7 years ago. So we are the new kids on the block still. We have a board of directors and we're a 501c3 and Associate Superintendent Boblitz is our Vice President of the board. So four program areas I just want to mention really quickly, and while I'm going to talk about our oral health and preschool screening was really how kind of our roots were in this health linkages program. We provide the dental screening, fluoride varnish, but also vision, hearing, height and weight BMI screening for all the state preschool kids. And then our Promotores Network, we have community health workers that are out in the community serving people. Connecting to Coverage is one of our newest programs, and that is really focusing on trying to get every single person who's eligible for Medi-Cal in our county enrolled and insured. MWell. So MWell, what's really exciting about this program and really unique is that it's a partnership between SPCEO and BeWell. And a lot of times partnerships are difficult. And I think that what's exciting about this is it brings the best and the strongest pieces that we have within SPCEO and that BeWell has from the County Behavioral Wellness Department. And what's unusual about this is a lot of times in a partnership, one is the more dominant partner, somebody gets the funding, and then they may, piece it out to other folks. But in this case, it really is a 50-50 partnership right from the beginning. So the grant was written pre-pandemic. A lot of things changed. Nobody could have imagined what was going to happen right at that time when we wrote this. But it's $5 million. It's a state grant. And we are a subcontractor to BeWell, but like I said, we're a 50-50 partner. It's just for fiduciary purposes. The money comes through the state and gets routed to us as well. It began in 2020, with the contract ending in 2026. So right now we're looking at exploring different possibilities for sustainability once that contract ends. And I would just want to share briefly goals and outcomes. So it's a prevention and early intervention program. So we have education happening in the classrooms, or we have education happening with the students, the teachers, parents. But it's really a comprehensive prevention program because we're wanting to avoid mental illness from becoming serious and disabling. And I'm really excited to see how this has made a difference in so many kids' lives. I think that what we're seeing is, and trying to do research on, is to see what those negative outcomes are that are being avoided by this. So this is a little bit about kind of the why we're doing it. It's because we want to intervene and try to prevent mental illness from becoming a worse situation than it is. I wanted to show you the different school districts that we are in right now. When we first got started, I think when I spoke with some of you a couple of years ago, we were mostly in North County. That's where we got started. And right here at Parnell was our hub, where we started with Santa Maria Bonita School District, Orchid, Guadalupe. And Fitzgerald has been a big partner from the start. We then moved into the San Ynez Valley and serving those districts. And now we're really active in South County as well. But to give you an idea of the reach here, we've provided so far 5,289 services, and that's to 611 unduplicated individual students. So that gives you a little bit of idea of how many children we're working with. We've done 102 outreach events that are education out in the community, usually right on the school campus. And through those, we've served 6,710 people. I want to talk a little about who we are and what we do. As I said, it's a real close partnership. On the left is the staffing that comes from Santa Barbara County Department of Behavioral Wellness. They provide the program manager and 3 clinicians. And then on the right, that's the SPCEO staff that are part of this. We have a part-time supervisor and 5 health navigators. So there are some clinically related services being provided, but this is, as I said, is a prevention and early intervention program. What is extremely valuable, I think, to districts is because of the participation from BeWell, there's a direct linkage that can happen to that county mental health system where there's not that barrier of people trying to access those services. It's really a direct linkage where these clinicians can do an assessment on site and really get people help more quickly than they might if they were just accessing it from the community. The focus about navigators too, I think that's unusual about ours, is that we talk about that warm handoff where you're not just giving somebody a number, you're not just giving somebody or even showing them a place to go. You're helping them really get connected with help. And for us, the extra step is it's not even seeing that they're connected, but staying with them a little bit longer to make sure that that connection is successful. Because sometimes they might get connected, but then maybe if they didn't really have a successful experience bonding with that therapist, then we don't want them to give up. We want to make sure that they're on the right path. So I wanted to show a little more detail on some of what we do. As I said, prevention, early intervention, we're connecting people with services where we see that there is a really serious need, or there's the beginning of a serious need that we're concerned about. But we're also doing a lot of education and skill building groups too. So there's individual interventions that are taking place, but these are some of the topics, and we really gear things to be whatever is of most interest to the school district. But these are some of the ones. One of the favorite ones was emotional superpowers. So all kinds of different topics, and we really do, when we meet with the districts, want to know what are their needs, what are they interested in, what do they do, and so we're able to, with this partnership between our staff and the clinicians, really tailor groups to what that school needs. So those are some of the topics. Those are some of the staff. Our staff we're in the Santa Barbara office, Lompoc office, and then right here at Farnell too. I think the closest door to here is where we have our staff. That's ML staff there, and actually from all the other program areas as well. These are the topics that we have for the staff teacher professional development. Staff are involved with that from SBCEO, but also the program manager that leads the program and the clinicians are doing a lot of this work. Like I said, we work together as a team. And again, this is tailored towards the district's needs and what they want for their teachers, what they want for their parents, what they want for their staff. So this kind of gives you a little idea. So anyway, just brief today. So hopefully maybe another time I get to tell you more about what we're doing. Yeah.
Is it a referral program? How do
Yes, we
students?
do. So, yeah. So we are doing the groups, the education, the outreach, those things. But depending upon the district, we're taking direct referrals too. So there's a secure link where they're giving us that referral. We're following up with them. In some cases, the assessment might be something very, might be something simple. And we're not just looking at the mental health needs, but comprehensively basic needs that are needed. So those come into, and usually our navigators will be the first ones to take a look at what those needs are. If they identify right from the screening process that there's a more serious need, then usually the Be Well clinician is going to be the one to maybe schedule an assessment and take it a step further. So with each district, and I mentioned the different districts, we're not in every single district. When the grant was written, all districts did opt in. They all had the potential to be involved with it. What we know happened after and during the pandemic was a lot of money was freed up, right, for mental health services, but just for recovery. And so for some school districts, they really had a robust mental health program that was something that we didn't want to duplicate or repeat what they're doing, right? So we've really worked in different districts to do what is needed. So in some cases, I think in all of them, we are taking the individual referrals, but for some, it was more a focus on the individual referrals. And for some that didn't already have internal staff doing it, it was more of a focus on groups or working with parents.
Do you engage the local reservation at all, Shumash?
We do not.
Is there reason that you don't, or?
Well, I will say that this program is specifically geared towards schools. So I think that's the reason why I'm sitting here thinking, because we have a community-based program. So part of me thinks like, oh yeah, we should be doing that too.
Mhm.
But I know with this program, it's a very specific contract with the state. It's very school-based.
Okay.
Yeah, it's school-based.
Yeah,
Yeah.
question.
uh-huh.
In reference to its school-based, who at the school area gets the information so that they know to refer these individuals?
That's a
I
good
mean, is it
question,
teacher,
too.
Principals.
Yeah, so when we set up, and we set up an MOU with each district that's going to participate.
Okay.
And so in each district is actually a different thing. In some cases, in one district, we have actually the head nurse is the one that coordinates all the referrals. There's another one where maybe an assistant superintendent does. So it really, so each school district designates at some point, sometimes which schools are participating or how they want to have those referrals come in. Because like I said, some of them have a system internal where they have some navigators on site perhaps already. So we don't want to duplicate. So we usually don't have things coming in directly from teachers unless that's the way the school district set it up with us. So.
I just wondered because sometimes no one knows this is going on.
That's
Only the
absolutely, you're
person
absolutely right. And I think
That
what's,
refers, so.
yeah. I think what's been really good about this program has been that relationship building with schools and knowing how schools work. So that it's not somebody from Be Well just going in with their ideas. And so I think that's where I see, like I talked about before, really, I feel like the power of the partnership is really in the different expertise and backgrounds that each of us have, because we have a different perspective coming from the side of the schools. They have a different perspective coming from the idea of being a state mental health system, right? So yeah, those opportunities to hear directly from the superintendents and then from the principals and other staff have been important because it's very different at each school what they need.
Mary Ellen, may I ask a question? Where does the Youth Well Coalition fit into all of this in terms
They
of?
do. If I had more time, I would have talked more about
Okay.
them too, right? So Youth Well they're part of our executive team. And so we work very closely with them. We have, which started, I think 4 years ago now, we have a navigator meeting that not only Be Well SB CEO, but all local community-based organizations send navigators to. And that's a resource and training meeting that's a part, and Youth Well helps lead that along with me and the manager from Be Well. So yeah, so Rachel Steidel is on our, she's on our executive committee and she's been there right from the beginning. Yeah, so a big part. So we work really closely with them. I didn't get a chance to talk more about that, but really I would say at the heart of this program, as well as all of the programs that we have within Child and Family Resource Services, is really that collaboration, the partnerships. Yeah, so almost anybody who's doing any kind of work like this, we are already in partnership with them. I'm usually already meeting with them and we're sharing ideas. Again, not duplicating, but kind of taking the piece where we have the most expertise and then supporting other people with what works best for them to do.
Really quick, thank you for the presentation. I had a question. You mentioned that the funding was ending in 2026.
Yes.
And so can you speak to some of the ideas or strategies to continue these services after funding is sunsetted?
Absolutely. That's really our big focus now because we're looking on the horizon of that coming up. It's a situation where we're going to look at different, what we call braided funding in ways, and Shannon, I'll let her get on here for a minute and is going to talk about the different opportunities that schools have to be able to bill for services. Within our department, we became one of the first community health worker providers for Medi-Cal, actually in the state. And so we have a contract with CenCal, so we can provide community health worker services that are billable. There's also a lot of opportunities that Shannon is going to talk about. So billing is one piece of that. We also have the opportunity where if the school district does not already have an internal system built that they're working with, that they might choose to use discretionary dollars with that, work with us. So that's our big focus this next year, is really seeing how we can continue to do this work, because we found that it has been very successful. The schools really appreciate our navigators and the Be Well staff. And I think it's been a great learning experience. Like I said, of putting together two very different organizations and systems to work together has been a great learning experience. Shannon will tell you more about billing.
So still stole my thunder there. Okay. So thank you. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about now
is really the systems and infrastructure that support the delivery of behavioral health services for students. So as was previously mentioned, behavioral health and wellness became part of the forefront of need throughout the pandemic. And as a response, the governor put together a master plan for kids' mental health, and funding for services and infrastructure were a large component of the Budget Act of 2021. This was packaged in the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, or CYBHI. Out of curiosity, has anyone heard of CYBHI? Anybody? All right, okay. So this is what is now a $4.7 billion with a B investment from the state that was with the intention to enhance, expand, and really redesign the systems that support behavioral health for children and youth. And when we say children and youth, we're talking about age 0 through 25. So CYBHI is attempting to support increased collaboration between educational entities, behavioral health departments, Medi-Cal managed care plans, and private insurance companies to promote timely and continuous services for youth. Our role at SBCEO has been really to facilitate a learning network to support school leaders in understanding this initiative and to foster collaboration across the various student-serving sectors in our community. And here are the various ways the state is trying to tackle this work. So there are actually 20 discrete programs or work streams in CYBHI across multiple agencies at the state level, and many are interrelated and focused on different facets of accessing behavioral health services. Of the 20 that are listed here, there are 10 that impact schools. Examples include things like trauma-informed training for educators. Cal Hope is up there on that list, which Tiffany shared the tremendous work our curriculum and instruction division is working on in schools in our county. And we will not be unpacking every work stream, but I show this graphic to share a sense of the system building being done at the state level in an attempt to support students at or near schools. Also, you may hear reference in the community about CYBHI, and this is just a helpful reminder that it isn't just one thing, but really an overhaul of accessing care in California. So today, I'm going to be giving an update on 4 work streams, and those are the Student Behavioral Health Incentive Program, or SBHIP, Wellness Coach Workforce, a new certification, and a behavioral health position, the statewide multi-payer school-linked fee schedule, also commonly referred to as the fee schedule, and the school-linked partnership and capacity grant program. I like to point out on this too that none of these work streams are actually overseen by the Department of Education, but rather various departments in the Health and Human Services Agency. So the first work stream I'm going to be talking about is SBHIP, and this is on the glossary of terms. I might hit almost every one of them on this one, so forgive me. But the focus, if you see on here, the focus population of SBHIP is for Medi-Cal qualifying students. And as such, the grant was administered through our local Medi-Cal managed care plan, which is CenCal Health. SBCEO supported with identifying the various districts for participation using established metrics such as unduplicated pupil counts, free reduced price meal qualification, English learner student population, foster youth population, and chronic absenteeism. Districts that met the threshold on 3 or more indicators were considered for participation. 6 LEAs entered agreements with CenCal to participate, including SBCEO's JCCS, Carpinteria, Santa Maria Bonita, Lompoc, Guadalupe, and Cuyama. The incentive program was provided one-time dollars to focus on 4 areas. The 4 areas were behavioral health and wellness programs, behavioral health screenings and referrals, building stronger partnerships, and parenting and family services. So each district got to decide how they decided to tackle those. Locally for JCCS, an example would be, Fitzgerald Community School was identified as the area of focus for JCCS. Some of the services included partnerships with the Promotores Network, contracting with 2 additional full-time mental health professionals,
an implementation of coordination of services team that involved Fitzgerald staff and behavioral health professionals making timely, data-driven decisions to meet the needs of our students. CenCal held its celebration of the program in January of this year, where representatives from the participating districts shared progress they made over the 2 years of the grant, lessons learned, and next steps. The funds for the program are sunsetting at the end of this school year, but most districts are planning to sustain many of the interventions that were implemented over the past 2 years. The next work stream is the certified wellness coach. So a wellness coach, you can think of it as a pre-clinical position that intends to increase schools' capacities to support behavioral health needs. There is I'm sure this is not news to you, but there is a workforce shortage of mental health professionals statewide, in particular, of course, too, in our county as well. So while these individuals cannot and really should not provide clinical level therapeutic services, they can work alongside mental health professionals to coach, administer screenings, or coordinate services for students and families. Some districts have had individuals in these types of positions before, but the state is recognizing the importance of this work and formalizing it with a certification process. So SBCEO supported districts last spring to apply for an employer support grant, and locally 2 districts received their grants to hire wellness coaches, and that was Santa Maria Bonita and Lompoc. They are completing their first year of the 2-year grant cycle to hire and onboard staff and integrate them into their behavioral health teams. In addition to individuals currently in the workforce that are doing the work, institutes of higher education can offer education program opportunities to students interested in entering this field. I've been in communication with Allen Hancock College, and they have begun their HCI, Healthcare Access and Information is HCI, Certified Wellness Coach program with the goal of students entering the field in 2027. My third work stream is the statewide multi-payer school-linked fee schedule, commonly referred to as the fee schedule. And this is a system that allows districts and charter schools to bill both private insurance and Medi-Cal for behavioral health services provided to students. So this is a brand new system at the state level. And so with that, there is a lot of infrastructure needs that schools, that the state, county, and schools are really looking to implement to be able to take advantage of this new system. Not only is an opportunity to be able to reimburse for services that schools are already providing, this fee schedule also expands the practitioner types of who can qualify for providing these services and be reimbursed. For example, PPS credentialed school counselors might already be providing some of these services to students on the school site, and they will be able to potentially get reimbursed for those services. In addition to that, the wellness coach position, that is that new position, is also on the list for approval for being able to provide some of these services that again, schools can be reimbursed for. This is, again, a very large undertaking. So the state has designed a cohort rollout for lead learning districts and charters to be able to onboard and participate. This is provides a long on-ramp for joining this system. Again, it is a brand new system. So that's been about a year in the making of learning together with DHCS to help build the system together collaboratively. And this is a big sustainable component of braided funding. So Mary Ellen touched briefly on, gosh, there's some of this one-time funding is ending. What does that mean for all these wonderful programs that some of the schools and community-based organizations have built? And this is looking at one of the ways to help support the funding. Now, the reimbursement rates, while they do not cover the actual cost of the services being provided, it is a way to help offset the cost in order to sustain and in some cases expand services that schools might be offering. Locally, we have 9 LEAs that are participating in a learning cohort. Those are JCCS, Santa Maria Bonita, Guadalupe, Lompoc, Carpinteria, Santa Barbara Unified, Santa Barbara Charter School, Goleta Union School District, and Orchid Union. Now, when we look at all of those numbers, really over 70% of students in our county are attending an LEA, a district or charter, participating in a learning cohort. So there is a lot of impact that we're really seeing, and that number is actually closer to 77%. Orchid just got their letter a couple days ago. So we're really looking at this could be a way to really positively impact a majority of our students in our county. And my last work stream here, as I mentioned, a lot of infrastructure is needed in order to participate in the fee schedule. So our division is overseeing a grant that provides one-time dollars to school districts that can be leveraged to do just that. And that's the School Linked Partnership and Capacity Grant Program. Districts and charters can use these funds to support with Medi-Cal enrollment, maintaining or increasing staff that provide direct services to students, building or increasing their billing infrastructure, and supporting their data collection and service documentation efforts. The life of this grant is through June 2027, and we have 18 districts and charters participating. The breakdown is 15 districts are JCCS, 2 charter schools, and the grant is just under $4.2 million. And you can see the graph, sorry, not the graph, the map right there with the stars. So we really do have a good swath of districts and charters participating. So through SBCU's coordination, 16 of the 18 participating districts and charters have decided to opt in to setting aside 10% of the grant to adopt a third-party billing vendor to be utilized across our county. So SBCEO is in the process of putting together a request for proposal to go to bid with the goal of adopting a billing vendor for the 25-26 school year and beyond. So zooming out, while a lot of this work you've heard today from our team is very much still in progress, we are pleased that so many districts and charters are interested in engaging in this work to continue to provide behavioral health services to students in our county, from the systems and infrastructure perspective, to the direct services to students and families, to the support in the classroom with early intervention and wellness. And so thank you for the opportunity to share today.
Thank you, Shannon. That was a lot of information in a short time, and we really appreciate you keeping it brief. This is the road show. We're really trying to learn quickly about the various departments that comprise SBCEO. So at this time, I'd like to turn to Bridget to see if you want to lift up any of the items that were in the superintendent's report, or ask if any board members have questions specific to item number 10.
So there is one item I wanted to just lift up, and that is the state of education that the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce is hosting, and that was rescheduled from our February date. The new date is April 30th, and it will be held at 4:30 p.m. at the Santa Maria Fair Park. So those of you who are interested, you'll want to go ahead and RSVP for that if you haven't already, for that event. And if there are any other questions related to the report, there are a few of our associate superintendents here who could maybe answer some of the questions that you have, if you have them.
Do we have any questions? Always appreciate getting that report in writing. We can mull it over and refer back. Thank you, Bridget. Our consent agenda, the usual items, we have minutes, we have a registration of credentials. And then item 13 is really just formalizing the 25-26 central office calendar, not to be confused with some of the other calendars that are out there. This is the one we need to formalize. And the declaration of surplus. And do I have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Rita Marie. All in favor? All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we have some action items. And I'm going to turn to Judy Frost for this next item. She is the chair of the board budget committee, along with Vida Marie Flores and Guy Walker serving. And we're going to look at the recommended approval of the second interim budget report.
The date that the budget committee met was March 5th.
Yes.
Does that sound right? And yeah, our budget committee consists of Vida Marie and Guy and myself. And on staff side, Susan and Steve and Nicole. It depends on a lot of work and effort on behalf of the staff within that department as well. And I want to applaud all of them for an excellent job. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Steve to go over the second interim report with us. And then we can ask any questions and the committee will make its recommendation.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Just a high level, the second interim report, we're fortunate it's consistent, very consistent with the adopted budget. We didn't see many significant changes in revenue or expenditures. And ultimately our unrestricted general fund is ending with a slight addition to the surplus at second interim. So just as a reminder, second interim is our second opportunity to update our budget during the calendar year. It reflects changes in revenue and expenditures through January 31st. So the report indicates that, again, like I said, it's consistent with the adopted budget. We're able to meet our financial obligations and be fiscally solvent for the current year, as well as the projected 2 years out. So big picture overview, budget's in good standing, but I'll take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Steve? We just heard the part about we're good.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up is a good way to put it.
Our committee thinks so too.
Yes, as a result of the presentation, we met for about an hour and a half.
Yes, I want to.
Okay. And we had a lot of questions. There's a lot of materials. The SACS report is always fun to look at, and all the Mets and not Mets and all that stuff. But in the end, the committee unanimously recommend the adoption of the approval of the second interim report. And we'd like to recommend to the board that our recommendation to approve serve as the motion.
Thank you.
To do so.
Do we need a second on that?
I second.
Thank you, Katya. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, and that motion carries. Thank you. Item number 16 is the annual financial audit report. Very happy to see that that is a clean report. Judy, do you want to add anything to that?
In our budget meeting on March 5th, we had, don't remember her name, our auditor, our partner on the audit.
Oh, yes. And I just drew a blank.
That's okay.
I Bailey is the partner and Shiloh was
Shiloh.
there.
And she joined us for going through the audit and started with just how well, again, the materials were prepared and given to them and how everything was clean and thumbs up, and it was wonderful. It was really well
Love when
done.
that happened.
So,
So we need a
Did you want-
motion to accept
well, the
that.
committee again
Will serve
recommends
as that.
unanimously, as long as it's unanimously, the
Excellent.
committee recommends approval of the audit report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nadja. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for the excellent work. I was on the budget committee. There's a lot of questions that go into those meetings, and we have the best staff. Explains everything at the granular level. Our next item is, you know what? It's a recommended approval of a change order. Well, this is definitely Mark's favorite part of the meeting, but I would like to preemptively state that the plan that was drafted and put into motion was way before his time.
Yeah.
So he's the messenger and we're not going to shoot the messenger. And this is a $2,300 item to move a fire alarm. On that first floor curriculum and instruction build out.
And the second part of that is just an extension of the time to finish out the contract. They will be done next week. This is the 21st Friday. We are having our walk with the architect on the 20th, and the project will close out and we'll have that area back to order. I still have to put furniture in it, of course, but the job will be completing. I'll have one small change order for about 5,000. Next board, I couldn't get it together on this one. The contractor did not provide the last two to me. But that will be it. We'll close this out and we'll move on and we'll have a successful project.
There'll be plenty more change orders in our future. I have a feeling.
Yes.
Judy, question?
So when everything is cleared a week from, you have the furniture ready to go?
Yes, the furniture will be delivered the following Tuesday,
Okay.
the 25th.
Close.
And yeah, and it's going in at that time. And then I've stored 5 or so offices on site. Those will be going back in following that. And I have to just get the data and phones set up. So we're really looking for mid-April. And that's really Ellen's call because she has to assign desk and locations. So that's out of my purview.
Okay, very good.
Excellent. We should have a ribbon cutting ceremony or something like that.
It's not a bad idea.
Appreciate your oversight, Mark.
I want to see.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mark on that one? We need a,
Just a-
a
Maybe a
guide.
procedural question. So, this is for approval of change order. There's got to be some number in which we don't have to, you don't need the board's approval. I mean, $2,300 seems.
True. The main reason I brought it was the change of time, the time extension. If I don't get the time closed out, it leaves the door open for one of two things to happen. One, liquidated damages, which I'm not intending to go after the contractor for. Or two, they charge us for extended overhead and profit, and I don't want that either. So this is a clean closure on both of our books and both of our ends to just simply close the project on that date. We walk away, no charge. It's non-compensable. I'm not charging him. He's not charging me.
So I basically called that.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like it's probably more of a transparency thing. Maybe my question is, could you have done this without bringing it to the board? Or is there some?
Legally, I can't because the board originally approved the contract. Any change to cost or time I have to bring to you. In the future, I would build in a contingency in which I would be able to approve the small things, present them to you as a list in the form of a tracking list so that you know what I'm spending, but that I don't have to be in the presence of your wonderful company month after month after month asking. So all future projects, I'll build in a contingency and show it to you. It'll be transparent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll second.
Sarah moved and Katya seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the California School Boards Association, or CSBA. This is an opportunity to vote on a candidate that they have proposed for the delegate assembly election. This is a returning candidate, an incumbent from Ventura County. His name is Arlie Kitt, who is in our region, region number 8. And I don't know if we have any questions on this. It's procedural. There's just one candidate and there's just one vote for him. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Arlie?
I move that we vote
Thank you, Katya.
for our one candidate.
A second. Thank you, Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed.
100%.
You're going to abstain?
I have no idea who was, I mean, I'm sure they're fine.
Right.
I have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been assured.
Yeah.
That this is a good person that has been involved in a CSBA for.
I'm happy.
There is.
I'm happy to pass 6-1.
It is a leap of faith, isn't it, though? But this is what's in front of us.
Yeah.
Apparently no room for a write-in candidate there. I don't know if anybody would jump to that one anyway. Now the same CSBA is also doing a delegate assembly election. And this time it's for a district vote. So we have 2 candidates for that one. One is a new candidate from Lompoc Unified, William Frankie Caldera, And the second is Melanie Waffle, who is an incumbent out of Orchid. Do we have any other questions outside of what was in our packet? I'm not sure who's
It's not a
answering.
question. I would just like to say that I know Melanie Waffle and I would certainly support her.
And I think the motion would be to forward both
Both.
candidates. So
Yeah.
one of them is new
Two open seats.
and
I'd like to speak on Frankie and Caldera. I've been
Thank
the
you.
Board president for Lompoc Unified. You would be hard pressed to find someone who cares more about our students, our teachers and facilities than Frankie. I mean, he has just done so much. He's, he has 4 new board members right now for Lompoc Unified that he's working with to try to get them through, but the relationships that he's helped foster are just incredible. He's gonna be outstanding.
thank you for that personal testimony. That's incredibly helpful. Any other comment? Do we have a motion?
So move.
Thank you, Guy. A second.
I second.
Thank you, Vita Marie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, on the strength of my colleague's recommendation.
I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah. All in favor is aye. Okay, that motion does carry. Thank you all. We'll look forward to seeing what CSBA comes up with. Information items, we have the SARC 23-24, which is always one year in arrears. There are 3 annual reports. If we have any questions, they can be directed to either Renee Wheeler or Kristen Escobedo, depending on if it's JCCS or special ed. Any questions for either of our associate superintendents? No? Okay, then information, so no action is required on that. There's a personnel report and also correspondence, which, looks a lot like a love letter from CDE to us. Positive certification of SBCEO's first interim report.
If I could go back just for a second to the items with Renee and Chris. I want to make sure that you realize we did look at that information and that our failure to have a question is a gold star for both of you. That we understood exactly what you were saying.
Good
and
point.
Didn't find any holes or areas where we would have a question. Because, sometimes you don't hear anything and you wonder, well, did they even look at it? Well, I can speak for, I'm sure we did. I'm sure we all did, but I know, yeah, it was good. Good job, guys.
Great work. Thank you. At this time, we're going to adjourn our open meeting and we'll resume in closed session. Should we take 5 to do that? Okay. See you in 5 minutes.